Hi, my name's Ken Jacobs. I'm a partner at Smith, Buss & Jacobs. We represent about 325 co-op and condo associations, some of which have suffered casualties. So today I'm going to talk about the casualty clause in condominium bylaws. That sounds dry as a bone though. So let's assume there's been a broken pipe that's flooded a unit and the board needs advice about what it's going to do and what it needs to do. So the things we're going to cover today include how casualties are defined and why that matters, who has to fix different types of damage after a casualty occurs, how the cost of restoration is funded, the role of insurance companies for the condo and the unit owner, and finally, dealing with major casualties involving multiple units from both a legal and a practical point of view. For the most part, I'm going to be discussing casualties from the point of view of the board. However, individual owners can also benefit from this, perhaps by listening to strategies that they have adopted in the past or that their insurance companies have used. Okay, what is a casualty? Oddly enough, a casualty is not well defined. In insurance, casualty is damage or loss to a person or thing as the result of an accident. And legally, it's a disastrous occurrence occurring as a result of an unexpected or sudden or unusual cause. Either way, a casualty results from an accident or a sudden event. So water damage from a broken pipe is a casualty, but water seepage through an exterior wall is not a casualty. And the casualty clause generally places the obligation to restore on the condominium. This takes a lot of condominium boards by surprise. So what's the condominium's legal obligation after a casualty occurs? And that depends on what's damaged. All right? As I said, the typical casualty clause says the condominium has the obligation after a casualty to restore the building, including the units and the system serving the units, but there are a number of exceptions in the clauses. The important exceptions include improvements or betterments made by the unit owner or his predecessor to the unit, decorations like paint or wallpaper, and personal property of the unit owner. All right, so if an owner's TV is damaged by a broken pipe, or he or she actually previously added a wall that was now destroyed, the unit owner is out of luck and has to make the repair himself. But floors, walls, ceilings, those that were damaged and that had not been installed by the unit owner previously have to be restored, and usually by the condo. The condo's obligation is usually limited to restoring the unit to its condition when it was delivered to the original owner. In other words, not taking into account improvements or betterments. The cause of the damage also matters. So if the owner's TV is damaged by a broken pipe, or he or she recently added a wall to the unit and that's destroyed, the unit owner is out of luck and has to make the repair himself. But floors, the walls, the ceilings that have been in the unit from the beginning will likely need to be restored by the condominium. So what this means in practice is that the condominium has to restore the unit to its condition when it was delivered to the original owner, but does not have to restore or pay for improvements that were made by the owner or for the personal property of the owner. Now, the cause of the damage also matters. If a dishwasher hose breaks, the condo might be entitled to indemnification due to the owner's negligence. The condo might claim the owner didn't maintain the dishwasher properly and therefore it has to indemnify the condo for any cost that the condominium occurs. This can get complicated, just note that. What this also means is that unit owners should carry homeowners insurance covering the unit. If the board hasn't made this mandatory already, consult your attorney about how to make this happen. Caveat, okay, check your condo documents. Many bylaws have different language stating the exceptions to what needs to be insured by the condo and the exceptions to what needs to be restored by the condo. They're supposed to be the same, but the people who wrote the bylaws frequently didn't pay attention to the need to have the same types of exceptions in both clauses. So this means that an owner or the insurer for a unit owner could seize on the differences in the clauses and try to make the condo pay for something that wasn't covered by insurance. Okay, where does the money come from for restoration? You may think the answer to this is obvious: file an insurance claim. The only alternative is to pay for the cost yourself from reserves or by a special assessment. Obviously, if you suffer a major damage claim, you don't have a choice. You have to file for insurance. But why wouldn't you file anyway? Well, there are several reasons, okay? First, the damage may not be insurable. A lot of buildings have an exception in their policies for water damage, for example, and that takes them by surprise. Second, the total cost may fall below the deductible for the carrier. If you have a $4,000 water damage claim and a $5,000 deductible, you're not going to file a claim with the insurance agent. And note, that's where the indemnification issue may come in. Or you may have a $7,000 insurance claim. Well, you may have made so many claims already that making another claim means that the insurance company is going to either cancel your policy, create an exclusion for the next time in the renewal, or raise your premium by 30–40%. So if you have 5 $7,500 claims for a $5,000 deductible, the insurance company is going to look at your loss history, and that can have a major negative effect. Talk to your insurance agent about what the benefits of filing a claim may be. This happens a lot, especially with repeated small water damage claims. Okay, once you file a claim, one other thing, many bylaws require the association to pay the money to an insurance trustee. An insurance trustee is a bank or lending institution that basically monitors disbursements. Now this adds a layer of complexity to all disbursements because you have somebody else looking over your shoulder before making the payment. What happens if the insurance proceeds aren't enough, or you don't have enough in your reserves to pay for everything? Well, any excess needed over insurance proceeds, that will be usually a common expense. All right, you may even need to impose a special assessment. Now, that's called a loss assessment. Some individual owners' policies will pay a loss assessment up to a certain amount. So if you have a $250,000 that you have to raise from 100 unit owners, that's $2,500 each. Their individual insurance policy may pay it. So that's another advantage. Okay, do common charges abate? All right, now remember, you're not a tenant, you're a unit owner. So the answer is only if the bylaws say so. All right, unlike a tenant whose rent would abate almost automatically, a condo owner is basically considered to be a partner. And he's going to have to bear his share of the loss of operating the condo, even though his unit has been damaged. But if there's an abatement, look in your bylaws. What is the role of the insurer for the unit owner? All right. In other words, if you have a casualty, then see if the unit owner is insured, because if the unit owner is carrying his own insurance, a lot of the unit owner's anxiety is going to be mitigated. All right, he'll usually have personal property covered. They'll usually cover the cost of temporary housing. So if he has to be out for a month while the unit's being restored, there will be a source of funds to pay that. And as I said before, there may be coverage for a loss assessment if the condo has to issue a special assessment. Now the problem with the unit owner's insurer is that they may balk at making a claim. Some insurance companies make a habit of not paying claims. I'm not going to mention names, but believe me, there's a difference in service. And so they will look for an excuse to pass the cost on to the condo's insurer, and then there will be a conflict which needs to be dealt with. You need to be prepared for an argument. Now you've decided you're going to make the repair. What issues come up during the repair? The major issue that comes up once you're starting the repair is that typically the unit owner wants you to do something different from what you're covered for under your insurance. In other words, you're only obligated to deliver what was originally installed. And if the building is 20, 30 years old, there may probably have been major alterations in the building to the countertops, to the floors, repainting, wallpaper, and just a lot of changes that the unit owner would love to have you pay for, but you're not obligated to do that. So that's another time you're going to be getting into a discussion with the unit owner and his insurance agent about who's going to restore what. More important, the unit owner is going to have his contractor. And the contractor wants to get in and he wants to do all these things before you cover the floor. So for example, if the unit owner relocated pipes, installed different wiring, and that got damaged, but under the alteration agreement, the unit owner is responsible for repairing and restoring damage to improvements that he's made, his contractor is going to want to come in before you cover up the floor in order to make the repair to the pipes and the wiring, so he doesn't have to rip up the floor again and then recover it. This is going to delay full restoration. So you have to decide how you're going to deal with that. Are you going to basically say, no, we have to get this done, here's a white box, now it's your problem, or are you going to work with the unit owner's contractor and coordinate with him? All right, so let's apply this to real life. I've talked about this in terms of single unit casualties, but what about a major casualty? How does a condominium deal with restoring the building after a major casualty? As an aside, the law provides that if the building is if 75% or more of the building is damaged and 75% of the unit owners do not vote to restore the building, then the insurance proceeds can be paid to the condominium, distributed to the owners or their mortgagees, and the condominium can terminate. I'm going to assume that's not going to happen. Usually, the value of your unit far exceeds the replacement value for individual components. So I'm going to assume that we've had a major fire or a major water leak, both of which have happened to condos I represent within the last 6 months, and the owners are scrambling in the next few hours and few days to say, what do we do next? What are the immediate issues we need to deal with? First, you have to control the damage. If there's a fire, the firemen are going to control the damage. Unfortunately, they're going to cause more damage in stopping the fire than the fire it may have caused itself. But what happens when you have a broken pipe and it leaks down 10 floors and 40 units are flooded? That's happened too. All right? You need to get the plumber in. You need to get somebody in to stop the damage. It seems obvious, all right? But that means your managing agent has to know somebody. You also need to get an engineer, some engineer who can check the structural integrity of the building, especially after a fire, all right? The city is going to be all over you on that. They're not going to let people in at all to deal with anything until they know that the building is structurally sound. Third, you have owners wandering around saying, where do we go now? And I'm not talking about temporary housing. I'm talking about the next 4 or 5 hours after they've been hustled out of their units because of the damage. So see if you can find a hall, a shelter, some place where people can gather and at least comfort each other, a place for emergency services to congregate. The fourth thing is notify the emergency services. In New York City, you have the Department of Housing Preservation and Development. You also have Office of Emergency Services. Other municipalities may not have that, but the Red Cross serves that function. They will come and they will provide immediate aid to those people who have been displaced. All right, so you've gotten through the first few hours and the next day comes up. Now what? There may be a security issue. If only part of the building is damaged and your staff can maintain security at the building, that's fine. But if staff had to move too, then you may need to provide separate security. Unfortunately, people do come in and try to loot vacant or damaged apartments. So make sure you have appropriate security. The next thing is I found to be vital, which is hire your own insurance adjuster. Now you may say, why do I need an adjuster? They're all crooks. All they want to do is maximize the money they receive. Well, no, a good adjuster can be invaluable, okay? You're going to need money to pay for all the people who are providing emergency services. There's going to be contractors coming in who are going to need to clean up the debris and the water damage, install a temporary roof, or waterproof the building after a fire. You're going to have to do environmental testing. All these people are going to want to be paid. An adjuster can work with your insurance company to get in advance, all right, before the total scope of the damage has been determined, but basically expedite getting you money so you don't have to go out of pocket. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay for these and then look for reimbursement, and that will happen. But for some associations that don't have sufficient reserves, that can be a traumatic experience. So the adjuster also makes recommendations. He should have access to the personnel who can help you do all this work. Certainly he'll have his own damage consultant. The insurance company is, when you notify the insurance company, the first thing they're going to do is send down their own consultant, but surprising no one, his goal is not to maximize the amount that you receive, it's to minimize the amount the insurance company has to pay. You need someone who's equally as qualified in contracting and construction to provide your own insurance estimates, and you need to do that immediately before the adjuster, the insurance company's adjuster, finalizes his report to the insurance company. Second, he knows people who can provide the services I talked about earlier, such as cleanup. You know, there's Maxon, there's ServPro. There are companies that specialize in coming in and dealing with individual apartments. Engineers, they can recommend engineers and environmental experts to provide the immediate emergency services that you're going to need. Everybody's there, they all are going to have questions about the building. You'll need some kind of emergency services or project consultant, a project manager of some sort, who really coordinates the various trades and makes sure that access is being provided in an orderly way and that everybody helps work. Yes, management can do this, but management is going to have its hands full because everybody is going to be calling management first. So it really helps to have somebody above management whose job it is just to deal with the professionals. The adjuster is also going to interpret your insurance policies in order to maximize the recovery to you. And particularly, this can be helpful when it comes to recovery for soft costs. That's not non-construction, non-immediate hard construction-related costs, or the costs of reimbursement for lost common charges, which is going to happen. Okay. The adjuster is also a useful asset when you discuss things with unit owners at meetings. He should be able to answer questions from unit owners about their own insurance. He can even help coordinate between individual owners and their own insurance companies if they're not being so responsive, because he should have contacts in the industry. You've hired your professional adjuster. Obviously, you have to notify your insurer at the same time. All right, they're going to send down their own adjusters, and at least that'll get the process for reimbursement started. Interestingly, consider an industrial hygienist or environmental consultant to perform tests. What I've found is unit owners get very worried about mold and asbestos, metal contamination, even if they don't need to be. Have the test performed so you can report to the owners that the mold is not toxic or there's no excess mold in the air, it's not being transmitted. Same thing with asbestos. It's very reassuring, and it'll anticipate a lot of the issues that they have. This is going to come up again, by the way, when you get to demolition, because demolition causes dust, dirt, heavy metals, and people are going to have the same concerns. Right. Send information to the owners however you can do it. If you have building link, that's ideal because people can get regular updates from you. But otherwise, a newsletter, a sign, anything. Organize a meeting of the owners just to tell them what you are doing. Owners need information. Owners need reassurance. You, the board, are intimately involved in what's going on. You know what's happening, but other owners are thinking of themselves. They're saying, when am I going to get back in? Do I have to find another place to live? How long? When can I get my personal property? I don't even have a toothbrush. A meeting helps you to air these these issues and gives them confidence. And that's the ongoing role of the board throughout this process. Yes, you have experts who are going to help you with the construction and they're going to get involved in the technical aspects. But the board has to communicate with the owners regularly. They're going to have innumerable questions and they're going to differ as the process continues. And they're going to blame the board and they're going to blame management if they can't get answers. It's the board's job to identify the issues and make sure that owners know who has the answers. So to summarize, determine whether the damage that's suffered constitutes a casualty. If it is, determine who's going to pay for it and how it's going to be funded. Coordinate the necessary repairs with the building's insurers and also the unit owners, if the unit owner is carrying insurance also. And if you have a major casualty, deal with the immediate damage, hire professionals to guide you through the process of making repair and paying for it. Thank you.